All right, welcome to the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles. How are we doing today?
Doing good on this very rainy day.
Yeah, yeah. No, but a lot of still it being rainy. I hope the Cubs and White Sox game one does not get postponed.
Yeah,
That would suck. But
yeah, that would stink.
yeah, big week coming up for the Cubs and the White Sox, especially because they're playing each other, and they have some big series coming up this weekend against some big teams. So yeah, we'll get things started here with the White Sox, 9-13, coming into Tuesday. It's tough. They've had a tough stretch. They lost another series against the Royals. They were able to tie things up with the LA Angels over the weekend. The series concluded on Monday. And with the Royals, we'll start with that one first. That series started with a 6-0 loss, despite Sox pitching as a whole not at its best. But overall, when you look at their pitching, I would say their worst problem might be Dallas Keuchel. Like that man
Yeah, absolutely.
he's been struggling ever since last year, and it just doesn't seem to get any better. It's looking pretty tough there. When you look at somebody like Dallas Keuchel, like what do you think his biggest problem right now? Like what does he not have that he used to have at least?
Yeah, so when I'm watching a lot of his breaking pitches, nothing's really moving. So if you're trying to throw, any sort of breaking pitch that isn't moving at all, is no different from taking batting practice before the game. So pretty much everything he's throwing is really a non-competitive pitch. If you really can't lay anything over the plate because guys are going to tattoo you, and that's really what's been happening. His pitches aren't doing nothing. Everything's pretty non-competitive. His moral doesn't ever really look good when he's on the mound. It's just, even for me as a hitter, if I'm watching him, I'm seeing this over and over again. I'm like, okay, curveball's not doing anything. Whatever else he's gonna throw, he's just gonna lay it over the plate. It's just not moving. I'm gonna square it up and hit over the wall too. So it's just, not really much going for him. In terms of his strategy and trying to get guys off balance, I'm all for that. Um, but it's different when these pitches you're throwing aren't moving, because it's much more easier as a hitter for us to recognize that, and it just catches our barrel every single time. So that's really what I'm seeing out of him a lot.
No, yeah, I mean he's got an 85% hard hit rate, and I mean if you go to his baseball savant, there's a whole lot of blue, and that's
Yeah,
not good.
yeah, yeah,
But the Sox were able to win game two, but they ended up losing the series regardless, 2 games out of three. Also, when we're talking about cold, guys like Lodi Garcia, Jose Abreu, they're cold as ice right now. Yasmani Grandal, like to be honest, I didn't know Grandal was struggling until I
yeah,
looked at his numbers and he has like a 468 OPS or something like that. I'm like, man,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's rough, especially for the season he had last year.
yeah.
When they played, then they moved on to play the Angels, and in game one, they were going to have a really good pitching matchup. Thor against Lucas Giolito, and
Yeah.
Thor was scratched due to illness. I was like, here we go again.
Yeah,
I'm pulling for those Angels. They have a solid rotation right now, but
yeah,
yeah, I know. I'm like, if they get Thor injuries, like that'd be really tough.
yeah,
In game two, or sorry, excuse me, in game one of that series, the White Sox only got 3 hits. They lost 5-1. Anyway, even without Noah Syndergaard pitching. In game two, Vince Velasquez he had his best start in a Sox jersey as the White Sox won 4-0. And then in the third game, Michael Lorenzen, the former Red two-way player, he pitched flawlessly until the ninth inning, where the Sox they put some runs on the board, almost came back. But
yeah, yeah.
that almost seems like one of those games where, like, even though you lost, you still, you're still pumped for, that
Feeling
you
good
got,
about that.
yeah. And like overall, they ended up on Monday, they ended up winning the final game to earn the split. But
Yeah,
overall, I think that's a good series for the White Sox because they needed something like that. The Angels came in playing really good. Their pitching has been pitching well. They've been pitching pretty well as a team. And then
yeah.
not only that, but their offense has been really good. Taylor Ward at the
Hmm.
top, Otani, Trout, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's the way I see it. Like, what do you think from that series? What can the White Sox take away, and is it something that they can build off of?
Yeah, there's a lot to build off with that. Even though there's some holes in there with the offense and the bullpen, the Sox are still really hanging in there. I like that they split this series with the Angels. They should feel good coming into Wrigley playing the Cubs. Not much for the Sox to really be worried about. What I am hearing a lot of right now in terms of them struggling, uh, there's a there's some finger pointing going on at Tony La Russa. I know a lot of people weren't on board with this for the most part. Uh, myself included, respectfully. I think the leadership is really what's going to come down to the Sox. Staying consistent for the rest of the year. This is a team that's going to end up competing at some point. They're not gonna stay behind for long. Players like Jose Abreu. This is a very seasoned, consistent player. He's not the only player who's kind of having a tough year as a veteran. I look at players like Joey Votto as well in the Reds. These are guys who are going to figure it out. These are true big leaguers. Same thing with Yasmani Grandal. You know, this team's going to figure it out 100%. I think it definitely comes down to leadership and how much they feel that Tony La Russa is behind them. Now us as fans watching this, we don't know what kind of conversations are going on. We don't know the true relationship of what is happening with Tony La Russa and his guys. Um, but I guess if you look at certain things from a standpoint, if you see them winning, if you see them celebrating and feeling good about themselves, I think it's safe to assume that everything's okay. Uh, you know, we'll see what happens when everything unfolds with this ball club because they're so talented. 9-13 isn't who they are, and they're going to improve as the year goes on.
No, yeah, definitely with the Tony La Russa thing. I mean, yeah, I agree. I've always looked at it from that angle of was that the right decision? Is this the guy they're going to win the World Series with?
Yeah,
And I don't know. I just always lean towards no, just because I feel like they need a different type of manager. But yeah, no, I've seen a lot of that chatter on Twitter, and just it's not good looking good for him. I mean, a
yeah,
lot of it has to do with decisions, lineup optimization and stuff like that. Like
right.
I think one of the games a lot of people were like, "What are you doing?" was probably the Larry Garcia batting third.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I mean that was yeah, I don't understand that whatsoever. I mean, we talked a little bit about that with the Cubs too. Is like some of the lineups that the Cubs were tossing out there were different. I know for
yes,
the Cubs at the time were I guess playing a little bit. This was earlier in April, so they were playing a little better, so they were getting
yeah,
away with it. But now it's looking rough. But yeah. So before we'll get into the Cubs and the White Sox in general. But before that, I also wanted to say Liam Hendricks had a nice day
yeah,
yesterday, striking out
yeah,
three. It seems like something he needs to kind of get back to where he used to be. Also, Luis Robert, hopefully for the Sox, is heating up. He had 3 hits on Monday, and he has 6 in his last 3 games. So
yeah.
if that guy, because if that guy heats up, he can carry the team. So
Absolutely.
and what's also what I was thinking about too is when the best White Sox lineup, in your opinion, who is the best leadoff hitter?
Oh gosh. I really do like Luis Robert at the top. I do like it. But in terms of where this team is at now, I'd probably put him in the 2 or 3 spot just because there is production that needs to happen in the middle of the order. If everything's at the top of the lineup, if you get a guy on, but the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys can't get him in, doesn't mean anything. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I really do like Luis Robert at the top. Um, Maybe Laurie Garcia, because I do think that he actually is when he is at his best. I do see him as a great contact hitter, putting the ball in play for the most part. It's interesting. It's interesting. I like Luis Robert at the top, but there's definitely other ways that they can go with it for sure. But definitely, Laurie Garcia in the 3 spot. No, definitely not. For me, he's a two hitter or a leadoff hitter.
Hmm. No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I think um, when the lineup is on, Robert is a good option for leadoff. But yeah,
Yeah.
when they're struggling, it might just be better, yeah, put him lower in the lineup.
Right, because I
Um,
wouldn't want to put Tim at the leadoff spot. I want Tim in somewhere in the middle because he's going to be the one who drives in those runs.
exactly, and that's the way I see it with Tim Anderson is that he makes contact. And not only makes contact, right, but he gets on base from like a standpoint of getting hits. Doesn't walk
Yeah.
much, but he's always a guy that's going to get you some extra bases.
Yep.
So that's good for when guys are on, he can drive runs in and whatnot. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean it's definitely something to think about when it comes to the White Sox struggles is whether lineups and um, also some were saying that because the White Sox have only played in the Midwest so far, that if like the cold has gotten to them and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't really. The only reason I don't buy into that is just because like the White Sox play in this weather every year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's April. Like they have the same team they've had for like the past couple years already.
Yeah.
Like I guess besides 2020, they didn't play in April. They played in September and August. But
Yeah.
like you should be used to the cold weather at least to know
Hmm.
that it's gonna suck and you're not gonna stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, and also the ball's still flying out of guaranteed rate field regardless. In the sense of not to a crazy amount, but home runs are still being hit. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not easy. It's not easy to play in the Midwest. Obviously we don't have stadiums like the Brewers where we can close the roof off. It's tough. It is tough, but after a few seasons, after playing in this weather constantly after a certain amount of time, you kind of got to know what to expect and just adjust the best you can because at the same time you got a team from the West coming into here. They're playing under the same conditions, and it might be even harder from them going from playing in the sun for 7, 8 days straight to coming to a very overcast, maybe rainy with wind, 40, 42 or 38-degree game. Everyone's playing the same game. We're all in the same environment. He's got to adjust. He's got to go out there and play every single time because you can win that game just as much as your opponent can.
No, yeah, and that's also like when I think about that type of things. Like for example, when people say, "Oh, like do the Bears have an advantage?" Like when when because Soldier Field is famous for their field, like just the field not being great and in great
Right.
condition.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, both teams have to play in it. Both teams have to endure all the the difficulties of playing there. So it's not. I don't put too much into that. I guess it'd be one
Right.
thing if like your team's never played there before and like
Yeah.
okay like or whatever not ever played before, but it has been a while since I played there before.
Yeah.
Um, but no, yeah, I don't buy too much into it. So besides that Cubs and White Sox series, they got Boston coming up after that over the weekend. They have a Apple TV Plus game and then a Peacock game, so two games on the national stage. And that is it's funny that I didn't notice this until like yesterday. Is that Sunday game against the Red Sox and that's going to be on Peacock? It's at 10:35 a.m.
Oh. Oh.
here,
Oh
local
my
time in
God.
Chicago. Yeah, so it's
Oh
like
my gosh. All right.
Sunday morning baseball.
Good morning. Hope you had your eggs and orange juice. Jeez.
Yeah. I know. I was like, oh man, 10:37. Jeez. But no,
All right.
the Red Sox they've been kind of struggling, but they their offense is like carried by Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez.
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna be a good series. Also after this Cubs series, I mean, I think the White Sox, and like I said, we'll get into that Cubs White Sox series. But that Cubs or the White Sox Red Sox series, I think, will also be another measuring stick for the White Sox to match up against a team that's also hoping to make the playoffs. So that'll be interesting. It's at Fenway also. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the Cubs now will move to the north side. They are also 9-13 entering the series. So I think if you would
Yeah.
have told me a month ago that the Cubs and White Sox had the same record going into this series, I would have been like, you're crazy. But
Yeah. Exactly.
I also would have been laughing. But
Yeah.
all right. So they started last week by playing the Atlanta Braves. And I knew that was going to be hard. We talked about it, and I knew it was going to be tough because the Braves had been struggling. So I thought
Yeah.
they could use it as a jumping off point and their
Yep.
their end. They ended up winning the series 2-1. The series opened up with the Cubs getting fried by Fried. Yeah, Max Fried, their ace left-hander. He outpitched Stroman, who almost had him basically pitch for pitch. Stroman probably had, bouncing back with that, a great start. Cubs ended up losing
Uh,
3-1 though. In game two, the Cubs went into extra innings for the first time. Wilson Contreras and Patrick Wisdom had big hits in the 10th inning. Cubs ended up winning that game. But yeah, in the finale, Kyle Wright struck out 8 Cubs. That guy looks nasty. He's just striking out everyone right now.
Yeah,
Very much like Dylan Cease. And
yeah,
um, they ended up losing that game 5-1. And then over the weekend, it was another series against the Brewers, and the Cubs again lost 2 out of 3. And those first 2 games were pretty bad. I mean, the Brewers outscored the
yeah.
Cubs 20-2,
Mhm.
and it just comes at the expense of Kyle Hendricks and Justin Steele, who 2 guys that have been struggling so far.
Tough
And
time.
yeah, the bright spot though was in the finale. Marcus Stroman again comes in,
Yeah,
and he probably has his best start as a Cub, striking out
yeah,
5 and 7 shutout innings.
mhm.
So that was good to see. And the Cubs with that win, they're now 2-0 against Corbin Burns, so that's pretty. It's nice to
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
For he's the defending NL Cy Young champion. So this with the whole Stroman thing too, his last 2 starts have been good for
yeah.
him. What do you think? What have you seen that's different from those starts where he was struggling? Giving up. Believe he gave up 5 in Colorado and stuff like that. Like, and we talked about it. Maybe it was just Colorado stuff like that. But is there something you see different from that Marcus Stroman your earlier in April than what you saw on Sunday?
Yeah, I would say, in terms of just confidence and seeing who he is as a person, Stroman is a very, very colorful player. Has a lot of personality, which I think is great. I think how he's utilizing his pitches as well, kind of attacking hitters a little bit differently, as definitely more of a strategical mindset as to how he's going to attack pitchers. Uh, you know, definitely an adjustment for him a little bit being on the north side. I think just getting used to being a Chicago Cub. No, not making any excuses for him, but there is an adjustment period that I think he had to go through. But I'm just seeing him just attack hitters so much better, and utilizing all of his pitches, everything from his breaking pitches that are moving great. I just love how he's putting away hitters. He's really has everyone off balance, and I noticed that a lot when he was pitching against the Brewers the other day, and it was just fun to watch. Just fun to watch. His stuff has always been there. I think it's just how he's attacking hitters, what he's deciding to do when it comes to pitching to someone like Yelich or whoever in the lineup. He has a better mindset when it comes to it. He knows what he wants to do to get them on. He's doing a great job of just executing.
No, yeah, that's the thing too. I was talking to a friend about that too. Is like the type of pitcher that Marcus Stroman is, and obviously as you're a baseball player right now, I think it's so interesting when a guy like him, like from a fan perspective, for me, I never played baseball before, but like I told you before, I tried out for baseball sophomore year, couldn't even hit the machine. So that just shows you my short-lived baseball career. But yeah, so uh with him is like just like my naive self, I'm thinking, oh, he has so many pitches, like if 2 or 3 aren't working, then why not just focus on the other ones? But yeah, I mean, it's just something like that. I think batters might even think about as well, in the sense of like,
Yeah,
oh, he's his fastball is not, he can't locate his fastball, can't locate his breaking ball. So
yeah,
it's stuff like that. They'll see that type of stuff. So it's like it's more of a of what he throws the most.
yeah,
You're gonna be able to sense it. I think ultimately as a hitter, I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. He's
But
changing eye levels. That's what I noticed. A lot of them.
yeah,
He was moving. He was working a lot of up and down, left to right. It
hmm
wasn't a lot of stuff over the plate unless he really felt like, unless he really was really trusting whatever it was that he's throwing over the plate. But he's changing the eye level of the hitter, um, working low for maybe 2 or 3 pitches, and all of a sudden on that last pitch, that put out pitch, all of a sudden he's up in the zone. As a hitter, we're in that low mindset. Everything was low. So for him to work up now, that just has us off balance. And he had a couple of guys reaching too. His whole strategy was just great. I
yeah.
loved everything he did. And when he struck out and then he kind of leaned back and then ran to the dugout, I love that.
No, yeah, that's the Marcus Stroman we know. And that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
exactly.
Like, it's like
Yeah.
so that, and when he's like, so that's why when he's on with all those pitches, it's so dangerous. So that's why,
Yep.
like, it's cool to see that he's gotten back to what he's doing, what he does best.
Yeah.
Another thing too is how about David Robertson? Like, he's not blowing away dudes. He's not, he might not even make the All-Star team. We'll see what happens later down the line. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
there's just so many great closers in the NL or
Yeah.
in general. But
Yeah.
like, I love to see what he's doing. I mean, he hasn't given up a run yet. He's got 5 saves, and you
Yeah.
know what? If the Cubs end up, not doing great, in July and August, like he's a guy that some other team will definitely benefit from having, which is good to see. I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
this is just another great guy in baseball who's been out of here, who's been doing well his whole career, and it'd be good to see him, go on another team and thrive. Uh,
Absolutely.
After the first month of the season, um, we have Seiya Suzuki, the rookie of the month.
Yeah.
And this was, he had a great overall. Obviously, he had a great month, despite at the end the last 7 games, his last 7 games, he's only hit 189, but he had I believe he had a couple hits. I think it was on Sunday or Saturday. So he definitely is not ice cold at all, to say the least. But
Yeah.
you can kind of see, we kind of knew this was coming. That some pitchers were going to adapt a little bit to him. But what like during the strikeouts have been up when he struggled.
Yeah.
His approach at the plate, do you think has it changed, or is it more the pitchers, seeing on what he's not swinging at and stuff like that?
Yeah, really, the pitchers are making good pitches. I saw him chase a couple out of the zone, but his whole approach has always been great. Um, you know, you know, he had a very loud April. Pitchers know about that. So they're just pitching him accordingly. He was striking out on good pitchers' pitches. It wasn't I didn't see a lot of him going out of who he is as a hitter. I thought he was still very in control. I think as soon as he comes back to Wrigley, I think he's gonna start to heat up again. Is just a lot of what I was seeing with Seiya Suzuki was just pitchers making good pitches to him, and sometimes they just make the good pitches and they win. That's it. There wasn't much of what I saw him do wrong with that, and this is expected as well for players to maybe come down a little bit, or pitchers to start to adjust. The more they hear about a player, the more they see it, the more they see him. Pitchers are going to constantly keep an eye on him and get more on him, more information on him as the year goes on. So not worried about it. They just make good pitches to get him out.
Yeah, and that's also another thing too, is just like having such a long season.
Yeah, yeah,
Every good player is going to go through stuff like this.
yeah. The ups and
It's
downs.
just how, yeah, it's just how you react, and I feel like
Yeah,
my point of view, I feel like he hasn't kind of lost the confidence, or he hasn't lost
yeah, yeah.
his approach is he's been doing his thing regardless.
Hmm.
Um, After the first month, it's really just been starting pitching for the Cubs has been the problem.
Yeah.
The bullpen's been nice to see. Obviously we've been talking about Seiya and also Ian Happ, just guys that have carried the offense almost for as
Yeah.
much as they can. They led the league in hitting for a couple weeks. Obviously, it was earlier in the season, so it probably wasn't going to last. They're already skyrocketing down. I think they're 6th or 7th now in
Hmm.
the league in hitting. So it's starting to happen. But again, the when we talked about the Cubs leading in hitting, it was them and the Rockies that were at the top. So so many people could have told you, that probably wasn't going to last. I mean, the Rockies played most of their
Yeah.
games in
Yeah.
Colorado in April, so that's probably why
Yeah.
too. But um, and then also, so after the Cubs and White Sox series, they're playing the Dodgers. So that will be very, very fascinating to see, just because the Dodgers are in such a different place than the Cubs are. They are nasty from top to
Oh
bottom,
boy.
and just, man, watching that's the type of team that, like, I'll just put on at night, just watch it, and I'm like, I'm literally watching an all-star team.
Yeah.
Like, they're and then the fact that, like, you know guys like Cody Bellinger have looked better. I know that he started off on fire and then he kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's looked better at the plate,
For sure.
and it's like with those type of guys, those types of teams, it's like, wow. So, like, they didn't even need Cody to go off, but they got Gavin Lux
Right.
batting ninth. It's
Yeah.
that type of, yeah. It's gonna be interesting. The Cubs and the Dodgers, they also play on Sunday Night Baseball, so that'll be also fun to watch.
Yeah.
So we'll also go into now the Cubs and the White Sox. So the Cubs and the White Sox play a 2-game series, a lovely 2-game series. So
Oh.
yeah, no, but it's pins together two teams that have been struggling in general. Uh, the Cubs, we almost expected that, but the White Sox are the one that's a little bit surprising. But for these two teams to go up against each other, what do you think? How about this? What do you think is gonna have? What is it gonna take for the White Sox to take both games from the Cubs at Wrigley?
I guess really just keep the hitters cold. That's really what you can do. Cubs haven't been hitting all that great, especially with that last series. keep the hitters cold. That's the main thing. But Sox pitching hasn't been incredible lately, so the Cubs could capitalize on that. Now with Kopech on the mound and against Smiley today, it actually might be a close match because these are two really good pitchers. Smiley with a 2.79 ERA and Kopech with a 1.42. This could be a close game. So if the Sox really want to take out the Cubs, which I still think they're more than capable of winning this series, keep the hitters cold and jump on the pitchers when they're struggling. The best bet is to knock Miley out as quick as possible.
No, yeah, like and definitely the pitching, the White Sox pitching have in general as a whole have been struggling, but those two guys in Giolito and Kopech who are going the series, they've been doing well. So it'll be interesting to see there. But I think ultimately, just because the Cubs are at home, I would see them splitting 1-1. But I could see the Sox easily taking two, just because the Smiley, as much as he's been doing well, obviously the White Sox always smash lefties. And then Hendricks goes on Wednesday, and we all know what has happened when Hendricks faces the White Sox. Abreu, I think I saw had I think he had like a 500 batting average in career or something. It's something nasty. So for the Cub fans' sake, obviously you hope that's not going to happen if a 2-game sweep. A split would be nice. But yeah, it'll definitely be up to I think ultimately up to the White Sox hitting and how they can bounce back, because as we said before, they can use this series to just kind of help their confidence and get back to their own ways of winning, because they're this is always almost like a playoff series when it comes to the Cubs and White Sox. They really want to beat each other. And it's not as crazy as it used to be with whole Michael Barrett, punching AJ Pierzynski type thing. But they know what it means. And when obviously Eloy Jimenez isn't playing, but when those guys play and they came from the Cubs system, so they like to beat him. So it's gonna, I think it's gonna be a really good series. I think that obviously we wish it was 3 games, but we're gonna have to wait I guess until next year, because I didn't notice until I thought for some reason that the other game the other series was going to be 3 games, but then I looked and it's like 2 games in the weekend at Guarantee Rate Field as well. But it is what it is. So we'll shift our focus now to around the league. There's a lot to talk about there, and some interesting things when it comes to baseballs, literally in general, baseballs. Chris Bassett had some comments after a game last week against the Cardinals, when there was a little bit of a brawl. They threw at Nolan Arenado. Now, the reason they were doing that is the Mets were getting hit a lot, and the Mets are getting hit a lot in general. They actually lead the league in hit by pitches right now. So in Chris Bassett's post-game conference, he was saying how the ball is different. Like in the first inning, it'll be different. The second inning, it'll be different. The third inning, it'll be different. And I have noticed that, and I have, when we're talking about baseball in general, when people getting hit in the face and stuff like that, you've been seeing a lot more. Now, I don't know. We haven't really talked about sticky stuff in general. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I'll bring it back, but we are seeing the effects of not having that. Pitchers are they can't. It doesn't look like they can necessarily pitch inside as much as they wanted to before. It looks like the ball is getting away from them. But in your opinion, what do you think the sticky stuff has to do with it, or what are your overall thoughts on the ball and what the MLB does with it every year?
Yeah, I definitely believe 100% that the sticky stuff has had an impact on it. When you look at how long players have been using this, and it's still pretty recent as to the rules as to when they were told they can't use it anymore, and being checked off when they come off the mound and all that bull crap. So I think there is definitely a lot of changing around and kind of just messing around the game a little bit that may not be great for it. It's definitely made a difference. Pitchers are still adjusting. They're still trying to adjust to something different. I wouldn't doubt if the baseballs are different. We've been hearing about this for years, and it'll be interesting to see how this progresses throughout the year. And what's going to change going next year. They should probably leave the baseballs alone. I think there's enough adjusting of the game right now as there is. Um, and it's unfair to the pitchers. The pitchers are already having to change so much of what they do because of certain rule changes. It's impacting the game, and players are having a hard time with it. Maybe it's an adjustment period, and give it another year or so where this won't even be a problem. But for now, it's in my opinion, it's not good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I've talked to people that don't watch baseball, and I tell them how like they change the balls in baseball and stuff like that. Like they're like, what? Like what other sport does the ball like? I guess the closest thing maybe like Deflategate, where you see like balls like in
Right?
it's
Yeah.
or whatever, even if they were deflated or not. But what other sport do you know that a league changes the balls and like and nobody has and it seems like for the as a large consensus nobody has a problem with it. Like people talk about it, people there's theories and stuff like that, but I
Yeah.
feel like for the most part people are just like, oh, whatever. like
Right.
like what we're gonna have to deal with it, and it's like I still think like regardless, obviously you're gonna go in there and you're gonna have to just play with what you got, but
Yep.
it's just like it seems unfair to just everyone in general. Like yeah, the pitchers obviously more because they have to adjust more with the whole not having some substances they used to use, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people also have been talking about how, oh, this could, what if this is the new dead ball era, type of thing, because the hitting is just way down from last year.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, it's gonna be something to look at for the rest of the season
Yeah.
because when it come playoff time, would we be all surprised that home runs go up again? Like, it just yeah, I just like it just MLB is just MLB is gonna MLB, right?
Yeah, the least that they could do is at least communicate. You know what I mean? At
Right, yeah,
least
exactly, yeah.
let the players know if you're not, you know, us as fans, we're the fans, but it's good to at
Mhm,
least communicate that kind of stuff to the
mhm.
players to let them know. I don't think the MLB's done a very good job of
No.
communicating and going about certain things they want to change. It's just they don't do a good job of it. And even if people would be upset, people are going to be upset about this either way. Still something to tell people way in advance, like months before spring training, or even a month at least before spring training starts. Instead of players having to figure out on their own and then struggle in games and then start to speculate. Just let the league know. Let players know so they can prepare and adjust and work on whatever they have to work on.
Yeah, it's just a strange thing. We've talked about it before. I mean, we can have a whole episode devoted to us, the problems we have with Manfred and just the league and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And I think I think it'll just continue until this man retires,
Hmm.
which is it'll be a long time. But
Hmm.
anyways, we'll move on now to the standings after April. Before we like get the rundown, I think there hasn't been that many surprises when you look at the standings. I
Right.
think everything at the beginning of the season, people were overreacting, like, oh, are the Brewers struggling or
Yeah.
whatever. I guess the only thing, not trying to be hometown bias, but the only thing that may be surprising is just the fact that the White Sox are not in first place. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would think that they would be in first place now. I guess the Angels also being in first place might surprise people in general, but
Yep.
for you though, off the top of your head, what is something that you've seen that has surprised you besides the White Sox, for example?
Yeah, you know what? I would definitely say as I'm looking at everything, still kind of trying to figure out. Really, it is the Angels for me. This is a team that's for years now I've put a pretty good product on the field when you look at the names in that lineup and the entire roster from 1 to 25 or 26 now, and they've still struggled. So to see them, finally start to put the pieces together with Rendon and Trout and Otani. That's awesome. That's awesome. They surprised me. I was kind of wary about them a little bit. I was like, all right, well, here we go again. They put a great product on the field every year, but they struggle. And just to see them doing well, and same thing with the Mets. But the Mets, I'm still giving that some time. But I am hoping that they continue this throughout the entire year. Um, you know. So the Angels and Mets have really surprised me. And what I hope for both of these teams is that they just stay consistent, just stay on this good path, stay healthy, stay healthy. That's the main thing for the Angels. Stay healthy, keep Sean healthy, keep Otani healthy. For the Mets, keep the drama to a minimum. Whatever issues that there are with the management or whatever, nip it in the bud as quick as you can. Stay consistent. That's the best thing that I would say for both of these teams. So those are my surprises, my picks.
Yeah, with the Angels, I mean, man, yeah, that's the one team I really hope just keeps going because we really want Otani and Trout in the playoffs. If we got those two, players in the into October baseball, it would be like Christmas in October. So it'd be like, I mean, seriously, because I mean, having those two guys play against some of the best pitching in baseball, I mean, night after night would be just awesome. So. You know what? And with the Mets, I 100% agree with you on the fact that like I'm not buying into it just yet. And that's not to say they're going to keep it going. They're not going to keep it going, but I said it before. I mean, with DeGrom not being there, I think they need DeGrom if they want to win the World Series. They need a healthy DeGrom to win the World Series if they want to get there. But man, Max Scherzer is taking over that rotation. I mean, it's unreal. He was nasty on Sunday Night Baseball. Gave up a few bombs actually. Schwarber 2 and 1 Harper, but that's the type of pitcher he is. He's going to give up his fair share of home runs, but he is just going off. But yeah, I'm gonna sit back and just wait a little bit because with the Mets, I feel like I've seen plenty of decent Aprils, plenty of decent Mays with them, and then it just hasn't worked out in the end. So I'm gonna wait and see on there. I think another thing too is that a lot of people did not. I think a lot of people did not expect the Giants to be in first place. At much of it all at this season, just because of how good the Dodgers have been. Ultimately, and I know that I would still I have the Dodgers winning the World Series. I think the Dodgers are still going to win the West, but I didn't think that them losing a few of the players they did. They don't have Gosman. They don't have some guys that really help them. Fundamentally like Alex Dickerson and stuff like that. But they have still come together and put together a great team on the field, and they're pitching well in general and just playing well. So that's something that I was looking at and was like scratching my head a little bit. I'm like, wow, the Dodgers are not in first place, but yeah, I think they'll find their way. Also, the Padres, it's nice to see them that they're actually playing well as
Yeah, yeah,
going into May. And what I also thought about was when you said that Eric Hosmer that you kind of thought, or I believe you said that maybe it'd be better if they kept Hosmer. He's got a little bit left in the tank, and man, does he have something left in the tank because he killed it
yeah,
in
yeah,
April. So
yeah,
he's been one of their best hitters.
yeah,
So that is something that I found also interesting is just because I think the Padres they need a lot of things to go right if they want to make it to the playoffs.
yeah,
Um, and so far so good on their end. Also, the AL East battle is looking like it's gonna be as great as we expected it to be. I mean, we look at it now, 1 through 4, even 1 through 5. I mean, the Orioles are probably gonna be there, come later on in the season. But uh, with the Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, and Red Sox, the biggest lead is the Red Sox. They're behind by 5.5 games, but the Yankees have won 10 in a row. They're on fire, and just New
yeah.
York baseball is killing it right now. But yeah, that whole division is going to be just something to watch. And I honestly did not expect the Yankees to jump off as they have at this point. But just like last year, their pitching has been insane, and their whole rotation is contributing. And of course, they have a great bullpen. So I think that's going to be also something to look at. But I do still believe the White Sox are gonna, come back and win that division. I do think also the Astros are gonna win the West. Although, like I said before, I hope that the Angels do,
Right.
just because it's something different. But the Astros
Yeah.
are just, still a great baseball team.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's after a month, and overall, just another great month of baseball. And I'm glad that we got to play April in base where we got to see baseball in April because we almost didn't. We missed like maybe like a week, so
Oh my
that's
goodness.
definitely appreciated. But before we end things, we have another story too that people were talking about yesterday, and that was Jordan Diaz, a minor league player. He there was something going around where he there's a video I saw on social media where he stepped out of the box, or he had, I think, like a foot, right? He had a foot in the box after a pitch. And not even, I mean, I counted in my head. I think it was like 15, 16, 17 seconds. He had gotten back into the box, or gotten ready in his stance and everything, and a strike was called. Because in the minors, they have the pitch clock. And if the pitcher or the player don't abide, they for the hitter, they'll put a strike on the board. For the pitcher, they'll put a ball on the board. Miles, I know you have a lot of thoughts. What did you have to say about this situation?
Oh goodness. This is one of those. I understand the concept of trying to speed the game up. I'm not against that, but we still have to make it fair and it still has to be reasonable. This particular moment wasn't reasonable, and then when you watch the video, you feel bad for him too because there was no delay in his part. He kind of just reset himself for a little bit and got right back in there. You can watch a lot of games right now in the MLB where players are stepping out of the batter's box and they are taking their time. So if it was one of those moments where he was really taking his time and there was so much in between where it's like, all right, come on, sure, that's one thing. But for this guy who really didn't do anything, he kind of just shook his shoulders a little bit, just reset, tapped the plate, was ready to go back into it. He shouldn't have gotten called out for that. That should not have counted against him. I think that's terrible. And if this is something that makes it to the MLB, that's not going to age well, no matter what. There's already so much. It feels like there's a lot of censorship happening within the game, whether it is the unwritten rules, whether it's players on the college baseball team hitting a home run and getting ejected for flipping their bat, stuff like that. We, I am worried that they are going to try to adjust the game so much to the point where it is not only going to be kind of annoying to watch, but players aren't going to want to play anymore because they're going to consistently do these little tweaks to the game, adding little whatever it is. It's not going to be fun to play anymore. It's already hard for a lot of fans to watch. I think this is ridiculous. I hope this never makes it to MLB. Uh, Shout out to Jordan Diaz because even when it happened, he handled it like a champ. I felt bad for him. He was kind of like, "Oh, that stinks. All right, I'll just go back to the dugout now." But this is awful. This is one of many awful things that they are trying to do, and I hope it does not age very long, and I hope it never makes it to the MLB.
No, yeah, that's another thing too. I was thinking, I'm like, man, how did this guy like not explode on the umpire? But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
because that. But you know what? As sad as it is, maybe there are some players just already used to it now at this point. If a
for
month in
sure.
or whatever, a few weeks in.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I told you before, it's with having like some kind of pitching clock, I don't have a problem with as long as there's no consequences to it. I know that may sound weird, but it's just because
yeah,
to have the clock up there just to kind of put the seed in the player's head, don't take forever up there, but
right.
also to give them a strike or a ball to affect the game. And it's also like with these types of rules, imagine if the World Series ended on an umpire, calling a ball or on a pitcher or a strike, vice versa. Like that
It'll
would
be
just
outrage.
be, yeah, there would be outrage. And we, also with replay too. I've always thought about replay. Luckily, it hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood. But having a World Series and in a replay would just be just horrible. I think because it just takes the celebration out of for the team that won and stuff. But
Yeah,
I mean, that's just the way baseball is going. But again, I hope it doesn't make it to the big leagues and that with that type of rule. And I just don't think it will. I think even though I don't also think that the robo-umps will come into play ever. I don't think so as much as a lot of people want it. I think some of those rules are going to stay in the minors and just never happen in the majors. It's just
yeah,
such a big change that I just don't think it would be received well at all. So I think that's the type of rules
yeah.
that and it's the thing. I also feel bad for the minor leaguers because they're trying to make it. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have to be worried. They shouldn't have to be worried about oh, am I getting back in the box or whatever? Like
Yeah,
it's truly unfair. Like you would almost prefer to see those rules maybe in other leagues or just
yeah,
leagues outside of the majors or even maybe even in the majors. Trying to like play some exhibition games, see how it works or something like that, test it out.
right.
But it's just like it's unfair to the players that are trying to make it to the big leagues when they're
Yeah,
out here worrying about the money they're making or other stuff happening, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it
Dudes
just
are out
seems
here
kind
trying
of
to make it,
exactly.
flying from across the world to be here, and
Yeah,
now they're being used as test subjects while they're
yeah,
at the same time trying to make it to the MLB. And now they got to worry about all these rules. It's awful. It's terrible.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap things up on there. Hopefully, we have a great series between the Cubs and the White Sox this week.
Yeah,
We'll have some pretty iconic matchups this weekend. You got the White Sox taking on the Red Sox at Fenway, and at
yeah.
Wrigley, the Cubs and the Dodgers are playing. So for Saul Rodriguez, Miles Porter, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.